Annenberg Media.
With additional support from Equicor Equitable HCA Corporation, the Good Listening Employee Benefits Company.
We do not all start life on an even playing field. But the rules are that we all play it by the rules of honesty and ethics.
Before I took that case, I had to agree that I would do anything ethical to defend that man.
So I'm going to just do the best I can. Is it imperfect? You bet. Is it awful? Well, maybe so.
Isn't there a point in a civilized society where one man has to be willing to step outside the system and say, no, I cannot do this because it's wrong?
I think we're at that point, which is nice in the sense, ethically, where we don't have the rules to protect us. We have to agonize with ourselves and our conscience.
It is safe to say that for as long as there have been public figures, there's been an interest in their private lives. It's human nature, I guess, to be interested in other people, especially those who command public attention. But in recent years, the privacy issue has taken on an overwhelming importance in American public life. In 1987, Gary Hart withdrew as a presidential candidate after stories appeared about his affair with a young woman. Judge Douglas Ginsburg lost his chance for a seat on the Supreme Court after revelations that he'd used marijuana in the past. Everywhere we turn, it seems private lives are on public display. Most often, the villain or the hero, depending on one's point of view, is the news media. In this program, we turn the spotlight on journalists, on us. This seminar lasted 4 hours and covered many subjects. Several months ago, we broadcast the part of the seminar that dealt most closely with election issues. Here are some highlights from that program.
You don't consider that you're posing any problem for your reporters by displaying your friendship with the various people they cover.
Well, what do you mean displaying?
Having them to your parties.
Mostly, nobody knows who's at my house.
Oh, but your reporters are very good.
No, they're not. They're not that.
What's the matter with socializing with these people?
Well, I just simply think that rubbing elbows with the unwashed masses who are likely to become a part of my news coverage is an unethical thing to do. I don't do it for ethical reasons.
Much as I could respect Lyle Denniston's position, I think that if you're not a member of the human race, you don't interact in a way that helps you find out what's really going on. So I think it's a question of proportion.
Mr. Jennings, is it ethical for a reporter, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Apple, to report what they've overheard at that party?
I think it does depend on how they go. I think if you go as a guest, you want to advertise to people around you who you are. We are entitled occasionally to be off duty.
And when you're off duty, if news floats its way by you,
you sometimes go on duty.
No, I think the reporters have the sense that they can be off duty when they want to be, but whenever they want to be, they're on duty, and we're always fair game.
Absolutely.
I think it's very much a one-way street.
All I know is that there is no such thing as keeping something secret, especially in these days, and anybody who's going to run for the president better go back to check and see whether there was lead in the diaper pins.
People love gossip. I think it's a question of satisfying their curiosity or whether or not you are fulfilling your responsibility to give them the information that they need in order to vote intelligently.
I don't think, actually, the American public expects potential candidates to undergo sort of public confessional rites extending, like St. Augustine's, you know, back to the earliest years of your youth as a sort of precondition for candidacy. I really don't think so.
As we begin, a hypothetical senator, Joe Valentine, has decided to seek the presidency. Our moderator is Professor Charles Nesson.
Ms. Smith, judge this one for me. Joe Valentine goes to a benefit. Actors Concerned for the Homeless. All right? It's a very posh affair, held in a very swanky place with a very famous singer who sings, and they're going to raise a lot of money. And Joe Valentine is sat at a table where next to him is this absolutely beautiful young woman, a starlet, gorgeous. And a picture is taken, and there you see the picture, and it's Joe kind of looking at this woman and she kind of looking at him. And, gee, it's an interesting picture. Is that something that you might do something with?
Well, I think it's something the reader could judge for themselves. A picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say, so yes, I would run such a picture in my column. But I wouldn't make any implication about it.
You wouldn't say, who is that dark beauty with?
I would try not to make it a real piece of crap. I would try to make it something interesting, let the picture speak for itself.
Now, Joe calls you up and says...
I wouldn't make an implication, in other words. In fact, I wouldn't make an implication about the senator and the lady unless she was very famous. But if she was a famous lady in show business, then I might bend my ethic and say something, but not anything too bad. And if he's married, probably not. Married people have enough troubles. I know. I've been married.
All right, let's move this one along to the next step. Mr. Fiedler, you get a telephone call from a young woman who says Joe Valentine is having an affair with Debbie Spice.
Seems I've heard this before.
What's more, if you go up to Lake Arter tonight, he is going to be up there with Debbie Spice, and you can count on it. Are you interested?
I need to know a lot more information than that. The fact that he might be with a woman without any other context is just about meaningless. This Debbie Spice might be a terrific pollster. I don't know. No,
she might be a terrific
you just don't want to
pollster,
be sure. And I don't know who the caller is. The caller might be working for one of Senator Valentine's rivals. I have to assume that this caller is ill-intentioned. I want to know more about why this person is calling me, what that person's motives are.
You've noticed in Liz Smith's column some rumors about this guy playing around. Are you more interested in this tip?
Well, I think I would be more interested in the tip if there was some sort of a history here that might be, once again, be borne out. But you haven't given me a situation there in which to show that there is a relationship between the senator and this woman that is anything other than professional.
Let me tell you a different story, all right? Joe Valentine's going to be up at Lake Arter, at the Cozy Condos tonight. He's going to be there with Eleanor Truelove. Eleanor Truelove is not a beautiful young woman. She, in fact, is someone, your tipster tells you, with whom the senator has had a long-term relationship. A distinguished woman, in fact. Indeed, a friend of Mrs. Graham's.
Do nothing at parties and have friends in this.
Does that one get you out of your chair?
Well, when you tell me with her, if I can assume that that simply means she is going to be up there at the same time and they're going to see each other, I might want to know, is she going to have some role in the campaign?
Listen, you fool, they are going to be staying in the same cozy condo tonight. And if you will just cover it, you will get pictures.
Well, I'm interested.
You like it?
It's certainly, if there is this context going into the campaign, that this is a problem for the candidate. And we have seen rumors to that effect springing up.
Is the candidate married?
Yes, the candidate's married.
So why does it make any difference?
Why does it make any difference to you that there are rumors out there?
Now, if there are no rumors out there, if this is the first information I have ever heard in the world that Joe Valentine may be having a relationship with a woman, my reaction would be not enough. It hasn't passed the threshold there.
Not even going to send your troops out?
I would likely talk to my reporter on the campaign. But I've got 20 other stories here I need to work on. I don't think I'm going to go after this one. Just wouldn't be credible to me yet.
Mr. Jennings, you are nodding your head there in disbelief.
I don't believe him.
You don't believe him?
No, I don't believe him. I'd like to believe him, and I'd like to believe him on behalf of all of us, but I don't believe him. I think he is, he's told his reporter. I don't think the source really makes any difference to him. Sorry, Tom. I don't think the source really makes any difference. He wants to check it out, and moreover, I think he probably wants to have a photographer on the scene, too. Again, it's not behavior that I encourage. I just think that we, at this particular moment, for this particular hypothetical, in this age, these are what his instincts are going to be.
Mrs. Fanning, what are your instincts?
I think I'd agonize a lot. I think I'd tell the reporter covering Valentine of this tip, and I would say keep your eyes and ears open, but I would not do anything beyond that at this stage. Because if this is
How about Mr. Jennings' suggestion that you're going to send a photographer up there?
I don't think that the scenario deserves it at this point. You haven't said that Joe Valentine has dared anyone to follow him. You haven't said that Joe Valentine has made a particular point of his fidelity and of his family, that this has become an issue at all. You're saying this is coming completely out of the blue. So I think I would be very much on guard. I think I would watch it and wait for it to develop.
So unless, might I agree with what Mrs. Fanning says exactly, unless Joe Valentine came along after Gary Hart had already been found out.
Gary Hart changed the landscape.
Before Gary Hart existed, I believe that Tom would have done as he said he would have done. After Gary Hart existed, I don't believe he would have done as he said.
But the difference is it raises a recklessness question.
It not only raises a recklessness question, but it raises, for our side of the equation, a fairness question. Are we going to go after Gary Hart and then not after the next person whom we get a tip about?
Furthermore, the idea that I find it amusing, almost hilarious, that if the candidate didn't say "follow me," that's okay. I mean, then what he does is all right. I mean, the judgment about his behavior is not conditioned on whether he says, "Put a tail on me, fellas," because then if a candidate gets up and says, "No, under no circumstances after 10 o'clock at night are you guys to pay any attention to me," are we then to say, "Well, you heard that? He doesn't want us following him, therefore he's not reckless." Or, "Well, he didn't make morality an issue. In fact, he doesn't even want to discuss his morality, therefore he's not a hypocrite." There's more to it than that. Any candidate who would go up to a conference of fundraisers at this cozy condo cottages with a woman to whom he is not married, with whom he is planning to spend a non-working night, is the biggest idiot that walked the face of the earth, and for that alone is unqualified to be President of the United States. You don't have to get to the morality issue. You don't have to get to the character issue. This is a guy who wants to be in charge of covert operations for the United States of America. Forget it. And I say you send that photographer up there, send a camera crew, because you are dealing with the biggest moron in the United States Senate.
Well, you know, while these editors are waiting to be completely certain and fair, the National Enquirer has already paid $25,000 for the picture, and the National Enquirer will run the picture, which will then get everybody in the respectable media off the hook, because then they will be able to show that picture on network television and it will appear in newspapers. And so what is fortunately, there's something called the National Enquirer that will do all that for us so that none of us have to do all of these dirty things.
Mr. Denniston, you're covering, okay? You get the call from Mr. Fiedler. He passes on the substance of this tip. You go to the front desk at the Order Lodge, Cozy Condos, and you ask, is Senator Valentine registered?
That's about 9 steps too far forward for me.
Yeah?
I start a long way back from that.
Start for me.
Get in the bushes and watch who comes and goes for a while.
First step, right in the bushes.
Well, yeah,
How do you know which bush to get in, Mr. Dennis?
Well, I mean, at most...
This is a big place. There's a lake, and there's condos lining the lake, you know, adjoining one after the other, these beautiful condos. You want to find out what room he's in. Which condo is his. You haven't gotten anywhere yet.
I haven't gotten anywhere
You don't
yet.
know where he is.
No, okay. All right. Then what I probably would next do is go around the backside, presumably.
There's a lake on the backside.
There's a lake on the backside, okay. Then go down the front side and I start looking for open windows, or at least windows that are open and the shades are down.
How about checking the garbage? You going to do that?
Well, I'll get to the garbage later because, I mean, normally that comes after the fact, right?
I want to get it all.
But
a lot of open windows.
A lot of open windows. Then I sort of start listening at windows and paying attention to what.
I lack security at this conference.
No, but I mean, most places like this, unless they're advertising as one of the resident services that they're providing havens for politicians and their paramours, okay, they don't have that kind of security. You can do the kind of things that I'm talking about, and you start listening for the, for what's going on. If you hear a baby crying in the first place, you think that's probably not it. But if in the third place you hear passionate groans, you're on the way. You think you're there.
But I tell you, to listen to that is really, how would you like that? How would you like that? That's the question I want to ask you. If we all got back to the point in this city, Washington, where it simply comes down to how would I feel if that happened to me as a human being, we'll make some progress.
I think that's not a bad rule to follow, frankly.
It's the best rule to follow.
I'd be very uncomfortable, Lyle. I apologize for if my reporter was doing that kind of thing, the eavesdropping.
I think what we have here, I think we're being very gingerly about this, and it's a good thing, I think, we're being very gingerly. Yeah. Because we did have something to do, or some of us had something to do with Miss Ferraro's demise. We did have something to do.
Please,
sorry, that was I apologize. I apologize. That was a tasteless word. I'm sorry. We did have something to do with the degree of attention Senator Hart got, even though I quite agree he invited Paul Taylor to virtually ask the question he did at the famous news conference. But it bothers us. It bothers us a lot. We do not see ourselves by instinct as being people. I don't see myself. I think most of us don't see ourselves as men and women in bushes. And yet something has changed. Something there's been a sea change. Johnny said it, I think, when he said, we have got to treat subsequent candidates with the same measure of fairness or unfairness, perhaps.
At least in this year.
Does the definition of fairness mean that every extramarital relationship, either current or recent past or historic past, is now fair game? I don't think so. See, I don't think any situation, I don't think fairness, yeah, we all strive for fairness, but every context is different. Every context has to be judged on its own merits.
Paul, it matters if a presidential candidate goes to the cozy condos. Really?
If I could just interject for just a minute. What Jeff said before is if someone is out at cozy condos, I mean, he's stupid if he's running for president, he's doing that. But take the situation, which I think maybe Paul might be addressing, where someone has had a history, say, of a long extramarital relationship with a woman, and decides that they're going to run for president, and, I mean, what do you do then? Do you expose it?
In your hypothetical, this woman, Mrs. Trueheart or Miss Trueheart, was a prominent Washington woman. I would assume if a prominent senator and presidential contender is having a long-term relationship with a prominent Washington woman who was invited to Mrs. Graham's party, a lot of people in Washington know about it. So we're not so surprised that they might be up at the cozy cabins.
Suppose they weren't even up there. Don't even put them there. Just before that, before they go anywhere, he's going to announce for president, and they've had this relationship, and they know it. What do you do?
You know it. Ms. Ferraro's question is, do you print it?
I suspect that after much consideration and lots of discussions with editors, I would guess that we do print it. If it's a long-term relationship that's quote known within the culture that we live in, Washington D.C., we know it's going to come out in the course of the campaign. They may not have chosen to go public with it. They may have gone semi-public with it within a small circle of friends. It's out there. It's going to be a part of the campaign. We try to do it tastefully, perhaps.
Let's take a look at this person who's had an extramarital affair. Now, if you print that, you're liable to, or most likely, you're going to have either the person who cares both about his wife, about, in this hypothetical, his wife and this woman. You're going to have him turn around and say, I can't subject the two of them to this whole thing, and therefore apply.
Right.
That person might really be the person who could lead this nation because they're right on Central America. They're right on the budget deficit. They're right on the trade deficit. They're right on arms control. And all of a sudden, you have left me, the voter, without that choice because you've decided.
Excuse me, that is absolutely, if I may say, that is, you've got it, in my view, totally backwards. If this person is such a paragon of public virtue, then the public will do in 1992 what it did in 1884 when it learned that Grover Cleveland had fathered a child out of wedlock, but decided they wanted this master of public probity over the continental liar from the state of Maine, James G. Blaine, who led an admirable private life and apparently was a public crook. Your view, in my view, is ultimately anti-democratic. I think the American people can look at a candidate and say, he had a fall from grace, but he's a terrific guy or lady. I'm going to go with him. We've done it once before in our history. Why are you...
That was before television. Yeah, but it would never happen that way, Jeff, and you know it, because what would end up happening is that issue would be the issue in the campaign, and that individual would have no opportunity to speak about anything else.
Not sure.
Well, let's see what happens in this situation. Mr. Dennison, I want to come back to you, and I want you to go along with me here.
Okay.
You found out from the bartender what room they're in.
All right.
You see a bellboy, bellhop, room service person,
right,
all dressed up in a uniform.
Right.
And you see him heading towards that condo.
Mm-hmm.
Would you think of asking the room service person if maybe you could take the uniform and carry in the drinks?
No, that's,
1940 movement.
He doesn't socialize with senators, remember? Won't do that. Won't even have a drink with him.
You mean we have finally found something that...
No, the point is, it takes a lot more of my time, perhaps some of my energy, to get this fellow converted to my investigative team, okay? I'm persuaded, at least so far, that I don't need to do that. It isn't a question of finding it morally reprehensible. It's a question of inutility. The point is, and Mr. Jennings has said, and he said it quite nobly and almost convincingly, that we are not people who spend time in bushes. Most of the time, Professor, I sit in the wonderful, cushioned, beautiful benches of the Supreme Court of the United States. But now and then, and at the rise of a fortuity, I will go in somebody's bushes, okay? Or I will put my ear to somebody's air vent, all right? I know a lot of these techniques. I've been at this trade for 39 years, okay? And there are some stories that you can't get by an act of commendable civility.
Would you climb a tree so that you could look through the window yourself? That you do.
That's one of the things I would have done in advance. I would have checked out to see what vistas, what vantages there are, in order to be able to observe as best one could the internal activity inside these lodgings.
Mr. Wallace, tell us how you'd cover this one.
Oh, my. There's nothing wrong with snooping. There's nothing wrong with skulking. And I am with Denniston all the way.
Really?
I think he's doing exactly the right thing. If I knew what the room was, I would knock on the door. And they would say, who?
Who is it?
Who's there?
Who's there?
And I would say, I would knock on the door once again. I'm not sure exactly what I would say, but the camera would be going. The camera would be going. And I would be very curious to see who opened that door, obviously, and get it on tape.
Now, if you knock on the door at 7:30 at night, no story. I mean, two people in a room at 7:30 at night, not much of a story.
It could be.
Would you consider waiting until 2 in the morning?
3:30.
I would.
Denniston says 3:30 here. 3:30 in the morning. Mike Wallace knocking on the door.
How old is Valentine and how long has this affair been going on?
You want to time it so they're not sound asleep at this point, huh?
Got it. I see nothing wrong with it, no.
No problem. And when you knock on the door and The senator, kind of bleary-eyed, opens the door.
What would I say? I don't know what the dickens I'm going to say.
Give us
Senator.
Give us tell the senator.
Hey, Joe. No, I don't know. Whatever the adrenaline dictates at that moment, I will say.
You're just running on instinct, then?
Yes, of course you do. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to say exactly. I really don't.
Could I just ask, you feel that you have the right to do that because the senator is running for president. What about Mrs. Truelove? Does she have any rights?
I think that Mrs. Truelove is certainly, she knows the senator's running for president. She's devoted to the man.
15 years.
15 years.
Mm.
Yeah. Then she's part of the, part of the story, surely. She knows.
She doesn't get time off for good behavior.
Next thing that happens, Mr. Greenfield, you get a telephone call. You're my political advisor, press relations. Jeff, sorry to wake you up at 3:30 in the morning. I think I might have a problem.
I think you have a wrong number. All right,
I think I got a problem.
What's your problem, Senator?
Well, I'm up here at Cozy Condo doing a speech tomorrow morning, and I think there's a bunch of reporters out in the bushes. What should I do?
Senator, are you alone? Senator?
No, I'm here with Debbie Spice.
Not to put too fine a point on this, Senator, it's late and the time for indelicacy is over. Are you and she romantically involved? Is she in your room at 3:30 in the morning, alone with you?
Yes. I tell you what, though, Jeff. She's registered in the adjoining condo. And there's a room, there's a door that leads between the two. I think we might be able to bullet through. What do you think?
Well, I think you're kidding yourself, but for her sake, I think you ought to get her in that other room. But you have a serious problem here, Senator. And I rather doubt that this thing is going to go away. I suggest you get her into that other room. And then I suggest that you call me back when that's done, and we'll figure out a graceful withdrawal statement from the campaign.
That bad?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's time for a conference call with my kitchen cabinet. 3:30 in the morning, Miss Kirkpatrick. What do you think I should do?
I think he's right. I think you blew it. I think you better get out.
Why do you say that?
Because today, public officials at high levels don't have any right of privacy. And you don't have any right of privacy. If you did, it would have been violated in all this. And, you know, it just won't wash anymore, Joe. It's too bad, but it just won't wash.
And, Senator, remember the conversation in that kitchen when all of us asked you and said, now, look, we like your position on the Persian Gulf, we like you on monetary reform and on jobs, but there are these rumors, and before all of us get involved in this campaign, we're telling you flat out that what stands between you and the nomination of your party are these rumors, and you assured us in no uncertain terms you have nothing to worry about. So therefore, whatever you decide, Senator, I'm out of the campaign as of 48 hours from now, and I can't speak for Ms. Kirkpatrick.
Sure. It's too bad, Joe.
You're too dumb to be president, sir.
Ms. Simpson? What if Senator Joe is the chairman of a dazzling committee with a staff of about 32, and he watches the media guy that did him in, and he knows who that is. He watches that person do Nightline and McNeil Lehrer and the Today Show, and thus converts himself or herself to a public figure under New York Times versus Sullivan. That is then a public figure. And he says to his loyal staff, I think it's time for this staff to go down and find out what the editor of the Herald Tribune is doing this weekend with his private life, because he is a public figure. How about that little hypothetical?
You're trying to imagine that also staying at the Cozy Condo is the editor of the newspaper.
Or somebody like that.
And you want to put Valentine's staff on that one?
Yes.
What is he running for?
Well, he's not running for anything, but he has more influence than guys who do run. That's what he does.
But of course, that's done already, not by your staff, but by the Inquirer. I think there's some people here in the media who can testify rather eloquently that they have found themselves in the public prints in ways they did not want because somebody else was curious about them. There's a certain payback here, I think, already.
But you and I know that if Senator Valentine's staff ever did that to any member of the press, that Senator Valentine would be strung up by his thumbs.
Well, he's hanging there on the wall.
You figure he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, he's up there.
General Westmoreland,
he's there.
You've sat here quietly and listened to this dialogue unfold.
Well, I must say I'm turned off by the Gestapo tactics that you have suggested and apparently practiced. It seems to me this thing can be handled a little more civil-like, a little more delicately. If when it became very clear that Jim Valentine was not the man with the moral character that the American people would accept, that somebody would get in touch with Mrs. Kirkpatrick, one of his advisors, and say, we strongly recommend to you, Joe, that you get out of politics. You're a public figure. Evidence has been accumulated that reflects on your moral character and your judgment, and you don't have a chance. So we recommend you get out of politics and go back to the Harvard Law School and reduce your golf handicap.
Where'd you get this evidence, General?
By listening to this forum.
You got the evidence out of the newspaper or out of the television. That's how you learned.
Miss Gorman, should I be knocked out of this race? Should Fiedler have sent out his troops on me?
He shouldn't, you shouldn't, according to older standards, according to today's standards, you've got to be. You're not dealing mainly with the press problem, I think, although we've been blaming the press for it. You have a lot of things that have been going on and changing our standards. More media politics, Watergate, which changed our notions of the standards of public rectitude that we could apply to people. Women's movement, which changed attitudes towards what was cute and what wasn't when it came to fooling around. And the press starts reflecting those in its pursuit of people. If we want a little change back, we all have to start talking differently about public figures and about what we have a right to know.
Miss Ferraro, do I have to get out?
Well, I think your big problem was that you had some really terrific advisors and you didn't ask them advice before you ran off to the cozy condos. Because had you come to your kitchen cabinet, they would have said, hey, listen, you know, the rumors are there, behave yourself. And if you want it badly enough, you're going to have to play by the rules of the game. And the rules of the game is that, you know, it's you're a fair game. So be cool, at least until you're elected.
Fascinating.
We don't.
Fascinating.
We don't.
Mrs. Graham, have the rules changed?
I think that they have changed for the better. I would say that Alan Simpson and General Westmoreland both really want to know about these people's characters that are running, and yet they say we shouldn't bring them this kind of information. One theory has it that they haven't changed that much, in that, for instance, John Sears pointed out that whereas primaries rule out candidates now, the smoke-filled rooms ruled out some of these candidates, and some of them were ruled out because of these reasons before they ever got to the public. So I don't know that this is as new as we think it is. I think it is the press's job to inform people and let them make judgments, as has been said around here. I don't think it's up to us to withhold, to use our opinions on what the public should and shouldn't know. I think we have to tell the public everything reasonable that we know.
Let's get it. We didn't, in this hypothetical, didn't rule Valentine out. You took yourself out based on the advice of the people you collected around you.
Well, now I'm not quite out of it yet. So far, I'm still there in the cozy condo. I've got Debbie over in her room. I've put the lights out in my place. and I'm going to bull my way through. And I emerge at 8 o'clock the next morning, heading for the podium to make a speech at this meeting. I'm going to see you out in the front yard. What do you say to me as I come out?
Good morning. I think I tell the senator that I have been outside his cottage in a somewhat different circumstance, Lyle, from the way you've been outside his cottage, but I've been outside his cottage. It's apparent to me that he was either with or next to an attractive young woman. What were the circumstances?
None of your damn business.
I think at that point there's no story.
Is this a woman with whom you have a relationship, with whom you're romantically involved?
He's just going to press right in.
Well, I'll probe a little bit further. I don't have a heck of a lot of stomach for this myself, but we'll take it a little further than the first refusal to discuss it.
But there's another question that you asked the senator outside. Say, Senator, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got a 1 o'clock deadline. And I've got a story, and I'm going to say that you spent the night with Debbie Spice. And I'm going to go with that story unless you tell me right now that you didn't, and you show me that you didn't, and you get Miss Spice out here and you have her attest in her own way that she didn't spend the night with you. But if you don't say anything, I'm going with that story.
Are you lying to him or are you telling him the truth?
Probably in that circumstance, I'm lying to him because I still haven't made clear with my editor that my editor is going to go with the story, even if I got the story nailed.
Ethics is good for us, but not for them. Is that the way that works?
But Senator, one of the things that I think needs saying here,
what, lying?
It needs badly to be saying here, is that the universe of ethics runs with each one of the groups. There isn't anything that I know of that constitutes a commonly accepted uniform code of ethics when one is engaging in the haphazard enterprise of communicating information. It's not a codal activity. It's a completely fortuitous, eccentric.
I think it is eccentric, and I think you believe it, which is ever more tragic.
You see, Senator, one day, somehow,
it'll be you.
Hope.
Okay. I want to be there when compassion, when you're the guy they're looking for, and how are people going to treat you? And I'd love to see how you'd feel if you were treated like you apparently come across as a pretty tough cookie.
How would I feel? I would feel very badly about that.
Well, how would you feel down here, not your head?
No,
You're doing your head stuff
about that.
now.
I'm talking about a
here.
visceral sensation. That it would be awful to be the object of that.
In the feeling world.
But the question, the question for me as a journalist, Senator.
Yeah, well, forget that.
No.
Okay, well then don't. But don't stay out of the feeling world.
The question for me as a journalist is, feeling badly as I do, okay, somewhere inside me, there's a little note of congratulations to the triumph of the other guy that got me. Because that's the, Senator, I don't know who it was, someone once said, politics ain't beanbag. Journalism isn't child's play. And journalism, when you're dealing with public affairs and people who are maneuvering in power entities and power relationships, and they stand in a position to make one whole hell of a lot more difference than Lyle Denniston with his pathetic little pad and his pencil.
Well, truth and ethics still mean something in life.
So you think somewhere down deep, Joe Valentine is going to say, that Lyle Denniston, he really did a job?
No, because Joe Valentine is not a journalist. And Joe Valentine had not spent 39 years of Joe Valentine's life trying to figure out what it is to have this incredible opportunity to be the first kid running down the street to say what I heard.
Mr. Fiedler.
Let me say this, because it troubles me that there's a suggestion here that there's no compassion or no human feeling involved in this reporting. I don't agree with that. I think you are sensitive to the human feelings that certainly to the pain, the human anguish that you're apt to cause by a story of this kind. You're not oblivious, and I don't think that even inside you expect the other person to say, hey, clean hit, nice shot, like it's a football game. That doesn't exist.
And there's a judgment call here, because we don't know for certain, we don't have the proof. And the question then becomes, do we print it or not? And when do we print it? It seems to me that we've got to get more information before we can print this story. And it's not enough to go on just what we've been told. It seems to me that you have to say, what is the public interest? Is this relevant? And is it true? These three things, I think, are standards that internally we can apply to whether we first go after a story like this and secondly print it when we get it.
Ms. Ferraro, you heard Mr. Denniston. You hear Ms. Fanning.
Well, listening to Ms. Fanning, I think that she has approached the problem responsibly. Listening to Mr. Denniston, the only thing I kind of got out of his comment was that, like a kid with a story, he was going to run out, and I think the way you put it was, no idea what the feeling is like. I'm not interested in what the feeling of the reporter is like that he's got the story. I'm interested in what effect it is going to have on the political system, and what the publisher believes is the right and of the public to know, and the responsibility of the press to transfer that information to the public. I'm not terribly interested that after 39 years he might get a Pulitzer Prize for doing what he did. That's not important. And if that's what he's looking for, I think it's unethical. I think if what he's looking for is to sell his papers, I think that that's unethical, if that's the sole goal. If the goal is to inform so that the voting public can make a decision about a leader in this country, an informed decision, then I think it's an okay field to go into, and I think that's the point that was brought up.
If the criteria is it relevant? What's the answer when it comes to the deep private lives of candidates? Current activities, past activities.
I feel that if you go back into if you go back 20 or 25 years, or if you go not only to the candidate, but the spouse of the candidate, or the mother or father of the candidate, I think that that is totally irrelevant, and I don't think it should be part of the whole picture. I think if you're talking about what Senator Valentine was doing, I think that that's stupidity, and that goes to judgment, and that's okay. Let the public know that. But I think that it's up to the press to exercise their responsibility that goes along with that wonderful right, which I would in no way curtail, that they're given under the First Amendment.
But these questions go on in newspaper and television offices ad nauseum until you can't get any work done. And then we come and blow a whole Sunday doing this. It's not that they're not being addressed. They are addressed constantly. Mrs. Graham talks about them. I talk about them. I'm sure you do. Every time we're out on the road with covering candidates, well, what do you think? What do you think? It goes on endlessly. The notion that that there is some kind of infernal machine that cranks into action with no consideration of these things, that it requires law school professors or journalism deans to bring these questions up, is absolutely preposterous.
I do want to say one thing. I don't think that any journalist here is motivated by selling newspapers. I don't think that is the motivation for anyone working in this business. Publishers maybe, but that is not the primary motivation. That is not the primary motivation of people working in this business.
I must say, I find it extremely interesting to think about the way this drama has unfolded this afternoon with regard to Mr. Denniston, who, by the way, whom I often read with enjoyment, who began the afternoon by saying he didn't socialize with political types because he didn't want to know them that well. That's kind of, and we end the afternoon with the sort of we get the object of the dehumanization of the political candidate, finally followed by the sort of triumph, of sort of great feelings of triumph over their exposure, and along the way with a lot of lying in bushes and peeping over transoms and listening at peepholes, keyholes. And I think that's terribly shocking. I think that journalism is just extremely important. I mean, nothing is more important in a free society than a free press. But it is also part of the society, and if we're going to cherish rights like privacy, then they're for all of them, and they apply to journalism as well. And if we're going to ask of Supreme Court justices, for example, that they honor rights to privacy, or that we're going to look for in our judges not just for respect for law, but for compassion as well. Surely it's not too much to expect that journalists, especially leading, terribly influential, powerful journalists in powerful media with the right to make and break human officials, also have a little compassion.
Mrs. Fanning, into your office walks Michael Marsh, kind of a weird-looking fellow. Outdoor boots and camouflage gear and funny-looking glasses. He says, I'm an active member of the Audubon Society. I just happened to be up on Lake Arter filming the night activities of the long-winged bat with very high-speed film. And all of a sudden I heard some splashing over, and I pointed my camera over. I couldn't even see what I was shooting. But lo and behold, when I got back and developed the films, here's what I've got.
What have you got?
You look, and there's Joe Valentine.
By himself?
No, he's swimming with someone else.
Can you see who he's swimming with?
Young woman.
They got any clothes on?
Can't quite tell that. They're swimming, after all.
What do you want? Are you trying to sell me these photos?
That's what I'm trying to do.
No dice. I'm not interested.
Why not?
Because I think there is an ethical line. And I think that in the first place, even this does not prove that they've spent the night in the room together, does it?
But it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty titillating.
It's worth a little bit of money.
There's a question in my mind as to whether or not the line has been crossed here. Ethically, I think that buying photos like that in a situation like this is not ethical. And I don't think that it is in the public interest. I think it's only in the public titillation. And I'm not in the titillation business.
Mr. Dennison, do you have any problem with buying those photos?
I wouldn't buy them, no.
You wouldn't buy them? You do all the rest of the stuff you would do, and you just won't pay poor Mike Marsh, who was out there taking pictures at night?
Well,
all he wants is a couple $100.
Well, when Mrs. Fanning said it's unethical, I assume she was speaking out of her subjective ethical perceptions. My subjective ethical perceptions are in substantial detail different from hers, but in this one respect, they are not. I don't pay for information. I don't
Mr. Wallace, is there something unethical about buying these photographs?
I wouldn't buy the photographs. No, I don't think that there's anything particularly unethical if it's fascinating information. I mean, if we're talking about these particular photographs, I think they're almost worthless. But I can see circumstances under which, unlike Mr. Dennison, I would pay for information.
If the photos were better?
If the photos were...
If maybe you could see
the
senator in a state of undress.
The photos by themselves mean absolutely nothing. Obviously, the photos could be, in the context of an interesting television piece, useful, but they are that big in the context of a much larger piece.
Speak to Mrs. Fanning about ethics, though. She thinks it's unethical to buy them.
Why unethical?
First of all, the purchase. Secondly, it still doesn't prove anything. It does not prove that they spent the night together. It's highly suggestive, but it's only suggestive.
Agreed.
It's not proof.
Agreed. But we're talking about the ethics of making the purchase, and I simply disagree about the ethics of making... Print and television time immemorial, have paid for information. They have.
Mr. Jennings?
I would buy them just to keep them out of the competitive arena, especially if they were only a couple $100. We're talking much of the day about two different things, technique of coverage and publication. I would buy them so that CBS and NBC didn't get their hands on them. They might come in handy someday, but I'd put them in the files.
What I'm missing is some sense that there's any kind of standard emerging. Am I just wrong about that? Ms. Garment, if we were to sit down, a group of journalists, would it be possible to evolve any kind of standard that would govern the way the press now covers candidates in terms of their private lives?
Not much of one, I don't think. Journalism it's not a profession, it's a trade, and it's very open to the influence of the society around it and the changes in the society around it. So I guess opinions on what was good practice, you'd find changing a fair amount over time.
Mrs. Graham, is there any ethical standard here?
There is, but it is not either a uniform body or a uniform set of principles that we can all set up and abide by. Each organization searches its souls, and I would not like to leave this format without saying that we are bothered, we are sensitive to the people out there that we're covering. We do worry about these things, and each different company sets its own standards, does supervise them, and does care. And I really bothers me Alan bothers me because I admire him and care a great deal about what he thinks, and Jerry Ferraro too. It bothers me that people hate the press and hate what we're doing, not for ourselves, but because of what that implies about what they might do in the way of either judicial opinions or legislative restraints or not caring about our freedoms. And I hope that they don't think that we're insensitive and uncaring and don't think about ethics, because I think we all do.
May I say,
I don't hate the press.
Yeah, I don't either.
Saying,
I don't hate the press at all.
Let's take it one at a time. Ms. Ferraro.
What I feel is not. I am a supporter of the First Amendment rights, and that's one of our basic freedoms in this country. But what I am concerned about, and it's a concern obviously that comes out of personal experience, is that sometimes the press reaches over that very fine line which you have described and takes their rights that they have and forgets their responsibility to the public and I think, to the public officials that they're covering. And when they cross that line and don't exert responsibility, they start moving in and affecting the private lives and the privacy rights of the individual, which Jean been said on numerous occasions, where you give up those rights of privacy when you run as a public official. I don't think we should have to. I'm saying, not that I hate the press. I think the press is wonderful. I think it's part of our basic, the freedom of the press is part of our basic freedoms in this country. But I do think that you have a responsibility, and I think that along with the right goes that responsibility, and you've got to exercise some responsibility.
What I'm saying is we do exercise it. We don't print everything we know. We do think about people's privacy. Times have changed. We didn't used to publish things that did impinge on public performance of public people. We did not used to print the fact that the head of the Armed Services Committee was drunk on the floor of Congress. We didn't print that. We now do. And we do print, we try to confine ourselves to the private issues that affect public performance. Now, sometimes I'm sure we probably go wrong. I sure agree that we make mistakes, and we do search ourselves, and we try not to. But it isn't that we aren't thinking about it.
Senator Simpson. I just, never have I ever, said that I hate the press. That is not me, and I've worked.
Well,
for
I amend that phrase.
Well, I think it's very
do.
important that you see when we criticize the press that we don't hate the press, because you get to lather us up. But let me tell you, I just came through this fascinating experience, and what Gene Kirkpatrick is saying is so real. But all you had to do was watch the Bork hearings. There were two things. They were omnipotent: privacy, privacy, privacy. And while that was going on, some frecklehead was picking up the copies of his videotape rentals down in a little shop down there in Washington, D.C., and published what Judge Robert Bork had been watching in his video rentals for the last 2 years. How would any of you like that? Okay, got it? That's real life. And the other one was that Robert Bork failed the test because he didn't show compassion. He was too much of a mechanic. He spent his time in technique. He was a technician. And so they would have gone for him. He would have been a good man if he had a little bit of oil of human kindness, milk of human kindness. He would have been all right. Isn't that fascinating? But not then do we get that out of this remarkable profession, which we all count on. I don't spend any time thinking about ways to do in the press. Hell, I think, you know, that's the way it is, and I accepted that. But for heaven's sake, the essence of the right to privacy is just what Griffin Bell said it was: the right to be left alone. By God, and you'd like that, every one of you.
In a democracy, public discourse is a vital commodity. We all believe that the public has a right to know a great deal about those who would presume to hold high office. As individuals, we also recognize the right to personal privacy. Where journalists draw that fine line, then, is a critical ethical choice. For the past 10 weeks, we've explored some of the toughest ethical dilemmas confronting our society, from the operating room to the courthouse, from the battlefield to the boardroom, from the White House to the streets and towns and our cities. It was Socrates who taught us that the unexamined life is not worth living. Our purpose in this series has been to examine modern American life, to look at the agonizing decisions that we face every day of our lives as professionals, as citizens, and as human beings. We believe that although this series now ends, that examination can go on in your living rooms.
This has been a production of Columbia University Seminars on Media and Society in association with WNET, New York. Columbia University Seminars on Media and Society is solely responsible for the content of this program. With additional support from Equicor Equitable HCA Corporation, the Good Listening Employee Benefits Company.
Annenberg Media. For information about this and other Annenberg Media programs, call 1-800-LEARNER and visit us at www.learner.org.